Welcome back to the channel. In this video I am going through a lot of the stuff we've previously covered for Outriders, but I'm trying out a new sort of thing within the channel, and it only hit me to try this out just to make my life easier, and I found it through watching Yongye. So Yongye posts a lot of very informative videos about games, and as I was watching a couple of videos, I noticed that he highlights a lot of the important, sentences, sometimes paragraphs, on these news sites, which is obviously going to make it easier for him, but also it basically just highlights the key points of these articles. So what I want you guys to do is leave feedback in the comments about this style of video. Are there any news articles you want me to look into? Let me know everything down below, because there are a lot of games that have mistakes in. Some of them have really positive things to talk about, and I'm just trying to adventure into basically any new territory I can. Just trying to keep stuff fresh on the channel. Even if it is the same game, try and keep the content fresh so it looks different, feels different to watch, all that sort of thing. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on. And also, if you want to support me as a creator, there are extra ways that are totally optional, but in the forms of Patreon, YouTube channel memberships, and merch. This video is basically going to be covering the key topics of a lot of the issues Outriders has had since the launch, and just how much it has negatively impacted People Can Fly and Square Enix's reputation. However, they are being ignorant with what is going on. They are basically throwing some stuff in the player's face, and they are continuing to do what they've been doing for the last 7 weeks or so with this game. So to start this off, I want to put an image on screen, and that image is going to show you basically the celebration that was on Twitter from the developers about them reaching 3.5 million players in the first month of the game. So that was between April 1st and May 1st. And the worst part of it, a lot of people that paid £60 for the game couldn't actually play the game in those first 4 weeks. So on this very first article, I've only highlighted a couple of things here and there. I'm not going into major depth with all of these articles. There are several we will be covering. But on this one, you can see the headline is that Outriders is not live service because story is so important for them. That's what a developer said. So if we come down to here, it's not going to be a live service game, with the studio instead focusing on releasing a game that's complete right off the bat. We know that this game wasn't complete. There are so many technical issues within the game. It was never complete. I don't know why they tried marketing it as a complete game. It might be the fact that when they say they want to release a complete game, basically that's all the content you're going to get, besides possible future expansions. There's not going to be any title updates or anything like that that add separate expeditions. Basically, the game is shipping as a whole game. That is what you get. They're not doing anything besides quality of life and expansions and possibly DLC and stuff. It also carries on here, and this is one of the main reasons I'm doing this video. We think there are a lot of cool games on the market, and people maybe don't have any more time to spend 300 hours to basically grind one item. So if we take a look at this image here, this shows you that I have 10 days, 6 hours playtime. Granted, there's possibly several hours that are me sitting there idle, whilst I'm having my dinner, whilst I'm looking after my kids, whilst I'm just sitting there talking and editing and just doing work. So maybe I don't know, maybe even knock off a whole day. But 10 days, 6 hours totals 246 hours. Knock off a whole day, screw it, we'll take 26 hours off. That's still 220 hours. If you look here at another one of the images they shared where they were basically releasing all of the players' stats, it says the 2 most used weapons in this game are the Death Shield and the Funeral Pyre. I'm pretty sure I've never had a Funeral Pyre. I'm 100% certain I've never seen a Death Shield for myself. The only Death Shield I have seen was when me and Pete joined Spam managed to get one to drop on Time Worn Spire. Besides that, I've never seen another Death Shield. Never personally had one or anything, and I've got over 200 hours worth of playtime. They marketed this game as knowing the players don't have any more time to spend 300 hours to basically grind one item, yet that is the system that's in the game. Then we move on to the next one, and I've simply just highlighted the top part of this. Outriders is having multiplayer matchmaking issues. This still happens throughout the game now. It's worst in a 3-player group. It's at its worst in a 3-player group. 2-player groups can sometimes be a bit annoying, and solo, like this isn't live service, anything like that. However, it's an always online game. You have to have a running internet connection to play the game. You have to connect to their servers, even if you are playing solo. But the more players in your group, the worse it gets, and that is still a thing 7 weeks later. However, if you look at this screenshot that I took from the game, Eye of the Storm and any other expedition in the game, if you are playing tier 15, this mode or this tier is pretty much specifically designed for group play. You can do it solo, however it's incredibly tough. You'll pretty much only see that top 5% of players that are consistently running most of the expedition solo with gold times. Eye of the Storm, not possible, not getting into that one. But basically, this is a game that was more designed for group play than it was for solo. However, you can do most of the stuff in the game solo. Expeditions do get tough, especially to run gold times. But they have had multiplayer matchmaking issues since the launch, and even if you do get into a game through matchmaking, the lag is dreadful. Yet tier 15 specifically states that it's designed for group play. You can barely play in a group. Not only that, there's been a lot of issues with players getting kicked before getting their loot from the end of an expedition. I don't think it's always necessarily the player that's kicking. I had someone comment say they don't ever kick anyone. They had a message on Xbox telling them to fuck off, thinking that they had been kicked. Like this person told the person that commented to fuck off in an Xbox message because they thought that they got kicked out of the group. I've seen a lot of comments and people just talking in discussions on forums and stuff of people mentioning that they are being kicked out at the end of an expedition. I've seen videos of it happening, but sometimes it doesn't pop up with that notification to say that you've been kicked out of the party. I don't know if there's an issue where that doesn't pop up, but I believe for some players it's not necessarily the player, like the host, that's kicking them out of the session. I feel part of the game is doing that too. It also happens that with the damage mitigation issue, which we'll get into further, but it also happens that that is seeming to affect players worse at the end of an expedition. So it seems as though there are a few more technical issues popping up here and there at the end of expeditions. But moving on to this article, and if you look under the 2 top highlighted parts, you'll see that this was posted on the 5th of July 2020. So this is talking like 9 months before the game released. Outriders is a good example of trying to deliver a finished product at launch, and that's what a developer said. Games are not super cheap, so we have to give value for the money that people are paying. Then if we scroll down and take a look at this, Outriders is going to be a content complete, fully fleshed out game at launch. They want to deliver a rich, meaty package right off the bat. There's nothing meaty and there's nothing content complete about this game at all. You have 15 expeditions in the end game, and they are all exactly the same thing. It's all time-based content, which was the worst decision they could have made. Yes, people can't necessarily jump into raids and spend 4 hours plus in the same bit of content because of jobs and families and stuff. But at the same time, people don't want to be rushed to complete a mission in under 6 minutes. They want to be able to take their time and do things in their own stride, at their own pace. But that cannot happen in this game. So therefore, a lot of players are instantly kicked out of feeling wanted and stuff in this game. I've seen a lot of comments saying that people are just struggling. I'm going to be hosting a live stream to try and help players through, because this game just has no end game balance. And yeah, they've stated they don't want players spending hundreds of hours, but they have a loot system in the game for it, and they're going to release DLC. So they don't want players to move on. They've got a grind in there to keep players attracted and keep them playing. But at the same time, they're doing a lot of things, a lot of their practices and stuff within this game are just going to push people away. That's just a natural part of this game. Carrying on, it says releasing shorter games at full price and then adding to them later is not the way the industry should go. I totally 100% agree with that, but at the same time, the way Outriders has released is also not the way the industry should go. I've stated this week in, week out. Everything they say is basically contradicting themselves. It's all lies. It's all basically they're just being hypocrites. They say one thing and someone, I have no idea how I would find an article written up about this or where there was like words mentioned in an interview or something. But one of the developers or something, like someone involved with the creation of this game, said if something goes wrong with the servers, they'll say, so what, mistakes happen, basically own up to it. But they said they are certain that things will not go wrong. How wrong could they have been? And don't quote me on that, it's not 100% how that would have been said, but it's basically along the lines of that. So again, they say, let's be honest, games are not super cheap, so we have to give value for the money that people are paying. Games that are short but still full price, I think that is not the way we should go in the industry overall. This game is short. They designed it to be fairly short. The story is not even going to take you 40 hours. The story probably won't even take 30 hours. I can't remember how long I spent on the story. A lot of my time at launch was trying to connect to the servers. And what made it worse is we actually had to... I was doing a 24-hour charity live stream when the game launched, and I had to disappear off the game for like 2 to 3 hours and play something else because the servers completely went down. But you have to bear all of this in mind. When people are going into their pockets, into their wallets, purses, whatever, to get £60 out, or a bank card with £60 on it, however you're bloody paying for the game, they are paying £60 to have weeks and weeks of issue after issue, and then some of the major ones get fixed, other major ones pop up. They've said Outriders is a good example of a game that tries to deliver, to make sure you emphasise tries, to deliver a full-fledged experience right off the bat. It does not do that. Then I've highlighted We Are a Good Example, finished product, game that we strongly believe will be fair for the players. Nerfing stuff within the first week, not fair for the players. Having gear drop with like 28,000 armor rating, patched within half an hour, yet mods not working in the game and not even being acknowledged. Other issues like damage mitigation, taking 2 weeks plus to fix. That is not fair for the player. For the amount of money players will pay for it, they will receive a lot of hours of a fun experience. They really don't get a fun experience. I mean, down at its core, the game is fun. But with all the issues in this game that have plagued this game, you will not overall have fun. And I've seen comments time and time again of people saying they have not had an issue with this game. For the first 4 days of launch, the servers were not working properly. 1 week after launch, they nerfed players, and then the inventory wipes come about. Sign-in issues on the PlayStation, and then they've also said there's an end game that will make it possible to enjoy the game even more. That's where the issues start popping up the most. And that's what I'm expecting as a player too from other companies. You can't say you expect something from another company when your company's not delivering on the goods. And here we go with a Forbes post. On May the 11th, so not too long ago, some Outriders players' games are still unplayable after 5 weeks. The game is struggling almost exclusively due to technical issues. The latest big issue, a lack of damage mitigation in some circumstances that means insta-deaths on occasion. As we've spoken about, a lot of the time it's towards the end of an expedition. And imagine spending 13 minutes on Archways of Enoch, getting right to the end, you're taking down the final Broodmother, the final couple of Strixes, then the Broodmother out of nowhere just hits you for every single last bit of your health. You die and have to start all over again. If you've never experienced it, like myself, that's what you have to imagine. Imagine being right at the end of an expedition, taking on one of the elites or whatever, and you get one tapped out of nowhere. You don't even see the attack coming, it just hits you with an insta-death. Imagine that feeling when you're trying to grind. And then I didn't really scroll down anymore, there is more below what I'm reading now. But I've opened several tabs, so I thought I wouldn't highlight too much. I mean, if I scroll down quickly, I've seen other players running into authentication issues, so that's pretty much what I'm covering anyway. Outriders is a strange case. It didn't feel like it was being rushed out with release. It was already delayed twice. It actually had 3 delays. But all games have technical problems these days, and yet the scope of Outriders bugs has been on another level. Okay, so back up to where we were. This is Paul Tassi, who wrote this article, talking about his friend. Like many people, he was hit with the infamous inventory wipe bug that took out all of his gear and didn't allow him to log in, so that's a Group A. That started cropping up about a week after launch, which was when the players got nerfed, and gear was only restored last week, being like a couple of weeks ago now or something like that. He's run into an authentication bug, which requires a combination of clearing the cache on his Xbox and reinstalling the entire game to maybe fix, and the issue keeps occurring. In 5 weeks, he hasn't even had enough playtime to finish the entire campaign. He's clocked in about 6 hours, and he doesn't even think he's that far into it because of all the technical issues in this game. I've literally just highlighted this part of this article, and they state you may not get everything you lost, but you'll get what counts. This is for the restoration, with players getting all the god rolls and everything like that, even the ones that never got wiped. God rolls handed out left, right and centre. Chuck the players that glitter, get them involved in defending our company, because we know we've messed up, but as long as we can keep the players hyped, nothing else matters. They also failed with this, because their numbers are just consistently dipping day in, day out for the current, concurrent player base. And then this one is talking about the community appreciation package still being in the works. This game has been out for 7 weeks and they are still working on showing us that they appreciate us for supporting their game. Outriders has been a major success for People Can Fly and Square Enix, despite it having several issues at launch, including a bug that wiped out players' inventories. Square Enix believes the title can become its next major franchise. Which leads me into the final article I'm going to cover, and that is the co-op sci-fi shooter, which is developed by People Can Fly, attracted over 3.5 million unique players between its April 1st release and May 1st, according to internal data from its publisher. There are average playtimes of over 30 hours and extremely high engagement for cooperative play. I don't know where they're extracting their data from, but the average playtime of over 30 hours, 31 of those 30 hours, yes, I'm being sarcastic, but a shit ton of that time is spent trying to sign in if you're on Xbox, trying to play crossplay because the game codes are broken due to that feature that was supposed to be fully released at launch, still being a beta feature. That would also consist of people being dashboarded still, having their guns and stuff randomly going missing now. That playtime isn't actual playtime of over 30 hours per player. Some of it is literally people trying to log into the game, trying to get the game that they've paid £60 for to work. And then they also said we continue to listen carefully. I've covered all this stuff in previous videos, as I said, but I just thought I would use this sort of stuff to bring a new type of video style to you, get your feedback and stuff, and just see how it goes. We continue to listen carefully and want to assure everyone that we are committed to improving and enhancing the experience in the coming weeks and months. We also look forward to expanding on Outriders in the future. So they've said over the coming weeks and months they're going to be looking into improving and enhancing the experience. We don't know what that means. They recently posted about their process for updating the game and the fact that a lot of stuff that needs fixing will take longer than 2 weeks. And at the moment, they are literally focusing on one issue at a time. They've said they have a team separate for fixing issues and for balancing the game. There are no balances that are buffing things up that seem very, very underwhelming. There is absolutely no balancing actually going on in this game. They are doing nothing besides working on one issue being damage mitigation. And they even stated that the sign-in issues will probably carry on after the patch to fix the damage mitigation. That's how slow this company is working, but they're looking forward to expanding on the game in the future. So that will probably be paid expansions, paid DLC, all that sort of stuff, just to bring in extra money, because they're working on another 2 projects. They want to carry on with this. Square Enix think this is going to be their next major franchise. So it took them 5 years to develop this, and a lot of you watching the video will know exactly how this game plays, exactly what the end game is like. And they now have 3 years to make their next game. But they're working on 2, but their next one that's being published by Square Enix is coming in 3 years' time. There is a chance, not sure how big or small, but there is a chance that next game that releases by the end of 2024 will be Outriders 2. If this game took 5 years for them to create, what are we getting for Outriders 2 in 3 years? Because they're also working on another game at the same time this time around. With Outriders, it was the only game they were working on. We're going to have to see with all of this stuff. I really hope they can get some of the major issues fixed, and a lot quicker than what they're currently doing. And then if they can get the game to a good technical state, I will look forward to some DLC to see what it is. Possibly new character class, new expeditions. All that sort of stuff could possibly come into the game. New loot, new gear, new legendary weapons. They could even do some balancing. Better drop rate. Easier to get your hands on the legendaries they've stated don't have to take 300 hours, but more than likely do in a lot of cases. All that sort of stuff is yet to be seen, and we don't know if we ever will even see it. Are we going to see patches to fix the mods that don't work? Are they going to correct a lot of issues? Is this damage mitigation fix going to break something else in a major game-breaking way? We don't know anything yet, but as time goes on we will see. But on that note, we're going to leave the video there. Don't forget to leave your feedback and stuff in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. I hope you guys enjoyed it.